Thank you, sir. Now, I call upon my good friend Anand Krishnan to deliver the welcome address.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me immense pleasure to introduce and welcome the dignitaries to this august gathering. Today, we are grateful to have with us Dr. Narasimhan Srinivasan, Associate Professor of Marketing, University of Connecticut. The courses he currently handles include Doctoral Seminar in Research Methodology, Marketing Management, Advertising, Consumer Behavior, and Marketing Research. He completed his PhD from State University of New York, MBA from IIM Ahmedabad, and BTech from University of Madras, India. His areas of expertise include survey research, consumer research, cross-cultural research, global and international issues. He is also a member of Board of Directors, Yukon Coop, also won the Innovation in Teaching Award 2008 from School of Business, University of Connecticut, and Fulbright Senior Specialist to ESAN University, Lima, Peru. On behalf of Justice K. Hegde Institute of Management family, we extend a warm welcome to you, sir, for this valedictory function. Welcome you, sir. I also would like to welcome Dr. N.K. Thinglaya, President of this function, to this valedictory session. Dr. N.K. Thinglaya is the Chairman, Academic Council, Justice K. Hegde Institute of Management, NITE. He was formerly the Chairman and Managing Director of Syndicate Bank, one of the leading public sector banks in the country. Welcome you, sir. It also gives me immense pleasure to introduce the next guest of the day, Mrs. Shribali Shetty, HR Specialist from Trisis HR Solutions, who's a proud alumnus of Justice K. Hegde Institute of Management. She's a result-oriented and certified recruitment professional with over 8 years of rich experience and thorough knowledge of effective interviewing and screening strategies involved in recruitment process of IT, software professionals, service technicians, engineering, and management staffs in various departments like production, logistics, accounts, finance, administration, sales, and marketing. She has also worked with various firms like Growth Map International, Mumbai, Global Links Private Limited, Bangalore, before joining Trisis HR Solution. She is an entrepreneur with the zeal to provide employment opportunity to the job seekers to meet required standards of clients on time by delivering customized HR solution. On behalf of entire Justice K. Hegde Institute of Management family, we extend a warm welcome back to you, ma'am, to this wonderful institution. Also, a warm welcome to the wonderful gathering present here. Thank you.
Thank you, Anand. A smile is a universal welcome, and flowers are the earth's beautiful smile. Now is the time to florally welcome our dignitaries. Aishwarya to Dr. N.K. Thinglaya. Professor of our institute, to read out the deliberations of the international meet. Sir.
President of the valediction, Dr. N.K. Thinglaya, Dr. Narasimhan Srinivasan, Ms. Shribali Shetty, and a wonderful audience, and ladies and gentlemen, and invitees. Let me just read out the proceedings of the two-day international meet that we have been celebrating here in a very befitting way to all of you here. The 5th NITE International Conference on Social Entrepreneurship, organized by the Justice K. Hegde Institute of Management, is coming to a close. It is reaching its logical end in this valediction session. The inaugural session, 3 debates, 2 special lectures, and 6 parallel sessions have enriched our perspectives on social entrepreneurship. My guru, Dr. G.V. Joshi, yesterday, in his characteristic style, expressed the hope that the conference would result in a win-win situation. In the valedictory session, his shishya, that is me, is observing that it is really a win-win situation. This conference was inaugurated by Mr. Muralidhar Koteshwar. To quote him, "It is only when we help others and we feel happier than when earning a lot of money," unquote. Dr. Satyajit Majumdar carried forward the idea of Koteshwar in his keynote address when he said that Indian companies engage in CSR to be corporate citizens and improve their relationships with local communities. The president of the inaugural session, Dr. N.K. Tingalaya, pointed out that the Nitte Education Trust is trying to produce social entrepreneurs with its value-based educational activities and programs. The first debate was on the possibility of social enterprises becoming publicly traded companies, was moderated by Professor Nandan Prabhu. Dr. K. Sankaran, as a debater, explained the possibility. At the same time, he approved the statement of Dr. Devi Prasad Shetty that charity is not scalable. Dr. Narasimhan Srinivasan denied the possibility by examining the famous statement of Milton Friedman, quote, "The business of business is business," unquote. The second debate on the role of institutional finance in the development of social enterprises, it was moderated by Dr. G.V. Joshi. Dr. Majumdar said that the considerations like profit and non-profit consideration must be discarded now while discussing the problems and prospects of social enterprises. These problems and prospects may not be appreciably understood by the present financial institutions. Therefore, they may not be able to positively help social enterprises. However, they have to play their role in future by engaging their outlook. Dr. Ganesh Bhatt rejected this argument and said that banks and other financial institutions with their present policy environment cannot finance social enterprises. There are some subjective factors coming in the way of financial institutions. The third debate has thrown light on the fitness or otherwise of MBA students for starting and managing social enterprises. Dr. N.S. Shetty acted as the moderator. Dr. Satyendra Dhiman called for revolutionary changes in the system of education. He did not accept Milton Friedman's statement. The MBA graduates have to serve society because they owe much to the society. Dr. Gurraj H. Kidyur highlighted the serious constraints and limitations of the present system of management education. Many management institutes in India today are not able to meet the challenges of producing social entrepreneurs at all. Dr. Satyendra Dhiman in his special lecture discussed the Indian philosophy of education by profusely quoting Bhagavad Gita. According to him, the fulfillment can be a driver for social entrepreneurship. Dr. P.V. Bhandari in his special lecture made presentations on social entrepreneur and entrepreneurial action for promoting mental health. Nearly 40 papers on the sub-themes of the conference have been presented in the parallel sessions. The deliberations and discussions of the conference have helped us to know and to grow and to be with global experiences, achievements, and its perspectives of social entrepreneurship. Now this institute can confidently say that social entrepreneurship has all the prospects of becoming a means to achieve win-win situation. The purpose of this conference is served very well. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
All right, thank you very much. For those of us who got the brochure, the valedictory address was supposed to have been delivered by Dr. Famida Handy. I can assure you she's not bald. I can assure you that she looks a lot prettier than I do. And we have been friends. It was Famida Handy who had actually introduced me to coming here when you had the first international conference. I met Famida way back in 2000 when I went to Canada on my first faculty Fulbright. And the lady who invited me took a sabbatic, and Famida being an economist, and I work well with economists, we started to work together. We applied for a grant, and it was the year of the volunteers. We got one of 13 grants approved in Canada, and we've been, and we were able to do some work and remain friends till today. So I do know Famida, I do know Ram, I do know Lucas because of a shared interest. And even though they are not in schools of business, that has always been something that we were able to share in common. Dr. Dhiman, I thought, reminded us repeatedly that messages are about storytelling. I agree with him. I'm going to tell you a lot of stories, but I'm not as educated as he is. I do not know all the Mahabharata scriptures. I have gone to temples a lot, more to see who else is there, play with my friends, get some prasad, and that was it. And in the meantime, through osmosis, you learn something. But it wasn't a regular study. The latest discussion I had with my daughter, who's smarter than I am, is to remind her that I have something called life experience that she is not going to catch up with. So maybe I'm going to relate to you some life experiences. I would like to address myself mostly to the students because it is for your benefit that this conference is being arranged. When I was an MBA student, it was somebody who came visiting, who gave a lecture, and I decided to attend it. I'm the first in my family to go to college. And I walked into college and they said, "What would you like to do?" I said, "I like chemistry because it seemed fascinating." You go to a lab, and I said, until today, the periodic table to me is a marvel. How can you condense the world into just a certain number of elements and depict it in a table? So to me, it's fascinating. So anyway, I said I wanted to do chemical engineering, and because in those days, if you're smart, you're supposed to be going to engineering or to medicine. Final year of engineering, somebody said, well, engineers report to managers, and I've never heard of MBAs. But my father had a heart attack in BTech, and I was afraid that I would have to stop my education. So even though I was having admission for PhDs in engineering, I said, what if he dies? I'm the oldest son. Now this is where I like the last debate, because he was very down to earth in saying, who are we dealing with? And the reason I'm talking to you about this is, each one of us is anchored in ourselves. Each one of us has a personal story. Each one of us wants to do a lot more good to others, but is constrained by necessarily having to take care of ourselves first. It's nice to say, you'll feel happier if you give. But if I don't have anything to give, what do I give? When I'm older, I have something to give, even if it is not monetary, because life experience teaches me a few things. In fact, I was doing my PhD, and my graduate classmate and I worked on a research paper for a couple of years, sent it into a journal, and of course it came back as a reject. So we were there, crestfallen, and in comes a family friend. That family had adopted me and my roommate from Nepal almost as if they were members of that family. I still have the key to that house anyway, because I still am. And he was a salesman. And he said to us, do you know what the problem with bright people is? And I said, tell me, right? He said, I've been a salesman all my life. How many people do you think say yes when I want to pitch them something? Most of them will say no. I don't hold it personally. You guys did well in high school, you got into a good college. You did well in undergraduate school, you got into grad school. You did well in grad school, you got into a PhD program. Where have you failed? Learn failure. Learn how to deal with failures. And the reason I'm talking about this is, if you want to do anything entrepreneurial, forget even social entrepreneurial, the chances are you're going to fail. And nobody likes to fail. It is only a small number of us who are willing to take the risk. Being older, I can say, take the risk, because your opportunity cost is low. If you wait and you find a suitable partner and you have children, you cannot quit, because your responsibilities have now enlarged to include other people who might be dependent upon you. It is fantastic that people with resources and values are starting educational institutions, because this itself is a social entrepreneurship project. So the spark that you get when you're a student does not necessarily have to come from classrooms at all. This morning, I went for a walk. Dr. Ganesh Bhatt is not here. And we were talking about other things. And it is those kinds of moments that you have with your teachers outside the classroom. When you see them as a person, not as somebody who has to grade you. Believe me, you think it's hard to take an exam? I don't like grading you. Because just because I give you an A doesn't mean you're going to go out and do something in the world. It is not the brightest people who are accomplishing the most in life. It is not to say that you shouldn't aim for being bright. How many leaders in any discipline are MBAs? The MBA as a degree is less than 100 years old. But we have lived forever. And we've managed a lot of things. We don't necessarily say that you have to have an MBA in order to be a leader. Yesterday, we had somebody talk about the difference between a boss and a leader. Maybe when you're younger, you like to be a boss. Once you get married, you know it's not possible anyway, right? I must say, hats off to my mother. My mom was a wonderfully strong lady who prepared me to have a very wonderfully strong spouse who has prepared me for my wonderfully strong daughter. So at each phase of my life, there has always been a strong woman who's looking out for me, and I'm fortunate. So I would like to recall a few things that struck me, and I would like you to start exploring yourself, even if it is going to be a very small part of what you do, at least in the environment in which I am. Yesterday when I was talking about my children volunteering, they do that all the time. My son was in high school. He was in charge of the blood drive for the American Red Cross. My daughter was managing the biggest fundraiser at Harvard. And that money that she collected even from me to see her, she went to poor schools. So they do something outside the classroom. They think about others who are not as fortunate. They're already willing to spend a part of their time instead of saying, can I make more money or something like that? No, think about others all the time. It becomes a part of you, who you are, because birth is an accident. A lot of things happen circumstantially. So when the first speaker, Dr. Koteshwar, was talking about Bill Gates' teacher, Caffier. Bill Gates' father was an attorney, very hard-nosed. And Bill Gates can be very hard-nosed. Even though he's doing charity, he will never give you more than 50% of what is needed. He says, you bring the other 50% because you need to be a part of the game. That came from his dad. His mom volunteered. That soft side came from her. Women are always more influential in everybody's life because they'll tell you the truth. My mother, till she passed, said, why did you waste 5 years doing engineering? She was right. I have no answer.